You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Witness the strength of street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Terrorize the jam like troops in Pakistan.
Street knowledge. Street knowledge. Quick service announcement brought to you in part by Warriors.
Damn, that shit was dope.
Hello everyone, and it's Warrior Creed back again for the new year. I'm the radical Maajid Nawaz, as you can see from the screen, the infamous Usman there to my right, and we have as our guest today Jake Shields. Welcome, Jake. Thanks for joining us, bro.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me. Good to meet both of you guys.
Where are you speaking to us from? Which state are you in at the moment?
I spent most of my life in California, but moved out here about a little over 2 years ago. The COVID too crazy in California, and that's not something I was really buying. So I came out here.
Yeah, and it was a lot more relaxed there, was it, with the COVID rules?
Yeah, I mean, it was like anywhere it still had way, but California was crazy. I think you guys are England, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think you guys had pretty but California was it was madness. You know, they locked down. It was I'd be out with a mask, and people would be turning their backs on me like I'm some kind of monster, and people were mad that I was like trying to get parties going, and I had an underground gym going, training illegally. It was down, you know. Most of my friends snapped out of it pretty quick.
Training illegally. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to train jiu-jitsu, which now looking back, it's very clear that staying in shape made people were acting like I was a monster for. Luckily, jiu-jitsu, you know, I was able to find a few people after a couple of weeks. Even everyone was like, "Nah, we're sheltering in place." I'm like, what? It's not, the virus is not going to.
Oh, you weren't allowed to go to the gym during COVID?
Nah.
I wish someone should tell the fight team then. I think we accidentally broke the rules.
Yeah, well, that's what he's saying. He's saying he was training.
Yeah, that's what Jake said. Yeah, right.
So Jake, you've got talking about training illegally. Let me kick it off with this one, because recently you had a situation with Mike Jackson, right? This is the Daily Mail newspaper covering the incident, but you put a video up as well on your own feed, and it was you clearly on top of the man, and him screaming, asking everyone to get you off it. So tell us what happened there.
Yeah, like I never heard of this guy, Mike Jackson, but my Twitter thread, one of my posts, I don't even know what I was posting. It had nothing to do with race or anything. And he called, and I was just like, who is this guy? I saw he was a fighter, and I clicked on it and saw he was in the UFC. So normally if someone called me a Nazi or insults me, I just block them. But he insulted me in the fight. I'm extremely respected in the fight industry. No fighters ever disrespect me. Maybe if I'm signed to fight someone, they'll disrespect. You're signed to fight them. It doesn't really count. But someone just randomly disrespected me. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to let that go. I'm like, hey, it's on when I see you. And he's mouthing off like okay, yeah, sure, white supremacist, this, that. But I look at the guy's Twitter feed, is all he does is call everyone like white supremacists, Nazis, just anyone who's white who don't agree with him. Oh, another funny thing is the guy, he's actually 3/4 white, 1/4 black. So I'm like, okay. And then it'd been a couple months, and I walked in the UFC gym, and I seen him there, and I'm just like oh, it started running his mouth. I went over, slapped him, threw him on the ground, mounted him, started things. I started just slapping him, and then I got pulled off. He ran, you know, called the cops. He's threatening to sue. Not you're a professional fighter. You don't have any lawsuit.
Why in the first place was he hurling these insults at you? Because I know everyone's trigger happy with these phrases these days: Nazi, racist. What was it? Did you tweet something what was he on about in the first place?
That was the weird thing. I didn't even tweet anything against race, and it's just for the racist, you know. And it's like I'm not gonna sit here and like be like, oh, I'm not racist because I don't need to. But it's everyone that knows me, like all my teammates are either Mexican, Muslims, black. The far guy around, tons of fighters came out in my support, including at least a dozen black fighters. All these other dudes were clowning on Mike Jackson, and instead of him, you think he would take that opportunity to reflect and be not a racist. And instead, he was just doubling down. And he actually did something really insulting to helps train my guy. He's got Dewey Cooper, who's a phenomenal kickboxer. He's a black guy, very know his exact stances, you know, but you can tell he's a very much pro-black type of black guy. He treats everyone equally. But you could tell, you know, maybe he was, you know, like I could have seen him being, you know, color. And Mike Jackson interview basically called this guy a race traitor for not taking his side in altercation. Or like messing around, like calling like I said, Dewey's older and mellow, you know, quite a bit. But if you call, you know, messing around people's races, he's gonna get himself killed by some real gangsters. He's not just insulting. He thinks he's just insulting white people, but he's insulting black people just as much. I think he's completely unaware of people reach out to me being like, man, I really don't like this guy. I want to hurt him.
Wow.
Now, I think,
yeah,
Maajid, I think Jake's hit the nail on the head there, because what you've got is you've got this. I call it. You probably would have seen this, Jake. You're like post that Jackass. Yeah, you had the when before it was even called MMA, and then post Jackass, you had this thing about guys that didn't mind, like you give them a kicking, and they still mouth off, and they still be running around. And what you had with it, and then you've got this thing where you've got, and I heard you say this about like he plays lacrosse, so you've got a middle classer who's like trying to be ghetto, and so he talks crap because he's probably listened to too much hip hop. Do you see what I mean? He thinks that he can live that life and start doing the social justice warrior thing and trying to pick his little cause and picking up and using Jake's name there. Do you see what I mean? And we've seen this before, haven't we, Maajid? It's that same thing that because people think they can talk and then they can hide behind like the gentrification. Yeah,
Jake, let me tell you a story on what Usman's saying, yeah, because it reminds me of what happened here. Usman, you'll know it with the James O'Brien situation, right? So we got a radio broadcaster here who likes to present himself as the most anti-racist white liberal that exists on the planet, right? And because I oppose, this is what I got cancelled for my previous gig. I was opposing all the COVID mandates. And basically opposing the vaccine mandates, the lockdowns, the masks, like Usman. We didn't buy any of it.
I don't know your story too well, but I definitely support that.
Yeah, and obviously time has vindicated us, but at the time it was quite a lonely thing, right? And I got booted off. Well, fast forward, and a few months ago, I was in a restaurant in London, and I was on the table talking to some friends. There were 3 of us in total. One of them was a Libyan friend of mine. And the other guy was somebody we were there just to have dinner with and meet and have for work reasons. We keep political relations. He was from a different political party, and we're, obviously this is what we're engaged in and what we're involved in on a day-to-day basis. So we were sat there having a nice little polite, meal, and the entire team from the radio station that had cancelled me without us planning it or anything, by chance, by fortune would have it, they were sat on the table across the room to us, right? And this guy who is like, super white, liberal, anti-racist guy, James O'Brien, he was on the table as well. But so was the editor of the radio station that cancelled me and the director of broadcasting, so the editor's boss. He was on the table. And so there were 3 of them too. And this guy, James O'Brien, who's the guy we're talking about, he's their star broadcaster, right? And the reason he is because he's like super like liberal, woke broadcaster type, So what happens is, the guy that we're there to meet, Richard, he goes over, decides to go and shake their hands, even though they hate him. He decides to be polite and goes to shake their hands. And I'm sitting there thinking, I know how this is going to end in disaster. Anyway, the guy basically told him to fuck off, refused to shake his hand, even though Richard was like, even though I don't agree with you, I listened to your show. And he put his hand out and he said, you can fuck off. And he refused to shake his hand. And I saw this kick off. So I thought, oh no, we're in a restaurant. So I went over to try and, basically arbitrate and, just bring my guy back to our table. And in doing so, I put my hand out and said, listen, guys, gentlemen shake hands, right? And he looks at me. This is, remember, uber woke liberal type, yeah? He looks at me and says, you can fuck off too and go and kill some more people. Now, the thing is... Oh,
my God. Yeah, the anti-racist, basically.
Yeah, if I know for a fact, because I know how this guy thinks and speaks on radio. If any of the right-wing politicians had said that to me, he'd say, oh, you're accusing me of being a terrorist, right? but he could get away with saying it to me. And this is what Malcolm X's White Liberals, the speech he gave, where it's like, hold on a minute, you think that because you clothe yourself in this garb with these virtue signals and this language, that we who grew up with racism don't recognize your fake shit when we see it, basically. And this is what I saw that you were speaking about this, because a guy you said, like, he's basically 3/4 white, and he's called you a Nazi.
Grew up, like you say, grew up in private schools too, playing lacrosse.
Yeah.
You could tell he's just never been around any others, and now he's trying to act like he is, but he grew up rich, trying to overcompensate for something, and he snaps out of it. But he seems just so far in. The guy could seriously get himself, and not just by white guys, by black guys. Like I was saying earlier, he's really insulting. You call it very straight. He doesn't realize that's a big insult. You're in prison, you're gonna get killed. You're calling a white people say you exterminate him, runs into the real Aryan Brotherhood, he's gonna get himself killed. He doesn't understand. He's clearly people, and I'm certainly no gangster, but I've been around some of these people, and I've seen, I've been around like the real Black Power dudes. They treat me with total respect. They're not gonna disrespect me because of, same with the Brown Power dudes. Maybe they're in the gangs and stuff, but they're not out running around.
Yeah. Well, there's another high profile spat that you got into, but this time it was with Cardi B. So I put that up on the screen. Cardi B in online skirmish with MMA fighter Jake Shields after he calls her a bad example for kids. Well, I appreciate that you've become very vocal, by the way. Let me start with that, because we need more people speaking their minds in this day and age where the establishment narrative is all that we hear. But tell us what you were saying to Cardi B. What happened there? What's the story?
Yeah, that was actually funny, because I didn't know it went, sometimes these random tweets, these dumb ones you send out are the ones that go the most viral. Everyone kept mentioning it to me. I'm like, I guess like a ton of news stories picked it up. I think it was when people were bashing Andrew Tate. I just said, I think it was Cardi B is a worse role model for Andrew Tate. And we won't get into his actions. I'm very skeptical of them, but I'm just talking about the overall message. I think Andrew Tate does say some bad. Overall, I think his message is for men to be stronger, work out, make yourself. Tate has a bunch of great things mixed in, and Cardi B is just, go out, be a hoe, sell your pussy, rob men. And again, I don't have anything against Cardi B. I'm not saying I dislike her, but that's nothing, I'd rather my son watch Andrew Tate. Obviously, it's your job, your dad, to say, hey, don't listen to this. But, she's clearly not a good role model. So I think it was weird they're counseling him and not her.
Yeah. I'm going to show on that thing about kids, though. This is a really serious topic. I'm glad you raised it, because while everyone's obsessing, and I put out a piece talking about how the whole Tate story is distracting us from the real stories that are going on, such as child trafficking, which are happening in countries we're sending billions and billions to and supporting a war. So I'm going to show 4 slides and then have you react to them on this subject of Cardi B being a bad role model for children. But this is about the children, not Cardi B. I'm moving it to why we should all be concerned about bad role models for children. But before I show the first of these 4 slides, I want to just warn everyone that this photo, the first one, is quite distressing. And it's the mildest that I could find to make the point. It's not like I've deliberately selected it, but if you're not happy with looking at distressing photos that are clearly putting children in positions they shouldn't be in, then turn away until I say it's the second slide. But the reason I'm showing this is because all of us, Jake, you'll remember the Balenciaga scandal. This is part of that. This is the second version of it, because there's a collective in Kiev, in Ukraine, called the Gorsad Collective. And it's a fashion shoot collective. So like Balenciaga, they've been doing photo shoots featuring children. So I'm going to show the first slide now. And as I say, if you don't like to see anything like that, just you can lower your gaze for a second, and I'll let you all know when it's done. But this one is very, very sad. I find it despicable. It's featuring young children asphyxiated or replicating asphyxiation, and of course in various suggestive poses. The one there in the bottom corner even has what looks like a young girl completely covered in plastic and lying in a fetal position as if she's dead. But this and many others, right, that's the distressing slide out the way, but this and many others are coming from the Gorsad Collective in Kiev. And it's, as I say, it's like Balenciaga Part 2. And why it's really important is because before the war, Jake, here's a headline from the BBC, right? And it's called Ukraine Babies in Stem Cell Probe. This is an actual BBC article. And the first paragraph reads, healthy newborn babies may have been killed in Ukraine to feed a flourishing international trade in stem cells, evidence obtained by the BBC suggests. That's a real BBC article. Here's the full screen grab of it. I only showed the other version of it so you could zoom in and read the text, but that's the actual website from where it comes from. And guys, it's not just the BBC reporting on this. Here's Huffington Post from 2015. Ukraine orphanages feeder for child trafficking. Here's Newsweek from 2016. Ukraine shame and epidemic of human trafficking. So we all knew that before the war, it was established in the press that Ukraine wasn't a very nice place. And yet all of a sudden, because we've decided we want to support a war in there, your tweet, Jake, this is why I'm raising this, right? And it links to your views on looking after children. Yeah. And I'll read this for everyone, all the viewers. In the past month, Zelensky has prohibited freedom of press, freedom of religion, and freedom of speech. The US media has stayed silent and continues to support the war in Ukraine. Now, obviously, I agree with you, but did you know about the child trafficking, Ukraine being a hub for that? And how does that make you feel even more so now, having known about it, when it comes to sending money to Ukraine?
So this is completely all new to me. You know, the Ukraine situation is very confusing. I try to do a look at this. The child is new, and that's absolutely disgusting. I mean, there's probably things far worse. It's just, I can't think of any possible way to excuse those. Sometimes you can try to like rationalize, but that's like BDSM or torture or abuse. Like, there's no way to like not call that child porn. It's like it exists. Yeah, I can't even any way to possibly rationalize that. Who knows what to do with kids trafficking there? I mean, billions of our hard-earned money to Ukraine, and it's the Ukrainian situation. Like, you know, some of those territories Putin's taking, the people consider themselves Russian, and NATO. It's not like I'm not saying Russia is good, the good guy in the situation, but it's not a black and white. It makes it, and like I said, Zelensky blocking freedom of press, freedom of religion. All these, and then we're sitting there praising them, especially all the liberals. There's literally all over America, there's Ukrainian flags flying as much as American flags. It's one of those bizarre things I've seen. I've seen a lot of bizarre things from one thing to the next. It's like their minds can just get like downloaded wherever they think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they keep sending money. I don't know if you saw Zelensky when he came and visited the White House, but it strikes me, it looks to me like, I don't know what you think, Usman, and your next tweet, Jake, I think it helps explain what's going on. We know now that big tech companies censored Hunter Biden's laptop story at the bidding of the FBI. The same FBI is in charge of investigating the alleged crimes on the laptop. America is a banana republic. But listen, if there was like some nasty shit on that laptop, and if there is compromising material on the son of the president of the United States, I mean, look, I know how blackmail operations work, right? If Zelensky's rocking up and every single bit of money he demands, he gets. What is it that they're saying we're going to release unless you give us more money? I mean, it sounds to me like they bullshit on the Bidens.
Yeah, especially because of the laptop operations in Ukraine. That's the weird part. Like, how is the media not talking about them? The FBI just ignores it. When on Ukraine, China too, which is also pretty scary because they're so powerful.
No, but I think
that he has all these the media is not digging into, and they're hiding from us, and they just ignore it, and we just keep giving me. It's bizarre, and the whole corruption, it just shows you how deep it is. You know, the FBI, they're the ones saying it's fake. They're also the same organization that faked the whole Trump Russiagate thing. So the FBI is meddling in elections, but they don't talk about that. These people, in my opinion, should be in jail, not running our country. Intelligence agencies are the ones that are running things, not the president. I think it was like 50 intelligence at the Hunter laptop was Russian disinformation. And these are the people that are, the same people that are impeaching Trump. Kind of shows you something we've known for a while. The president doesn't really run the country, but I think last few elections, one from Trump, is he going to get anything done? He was impeached twice for two things that were fake, and then you have Biden, who can barely say his name, so he's clearly not running. Harris clearly isn't running anything, so it makes you start to look and be like, maybe these conspiracy theories. Fortunately, I don't have the exact answer of who's running things and what's going on, but I can look and it's clearly off. And I really started noticing during COVID when they were just start locking everything down. I'm like, what's going on? Something a lot bigger is going on here.
Yeah, well, this is the thing here, Jake. It's like me and Maajid have both worked behind this veil. Do you see what I mean? In the counter-terrorism work that we did. Yeah. So even on your side of the water, I've been there. West Point Military Academy, trained the LAPD counter-terrorism units, New York counter-terrorism intelligence. Do you see it? So we've been there at the highest level, seeing what's going on. Yeah. And over here in the UK, your hair would go white if you heard about the stuff the shit we've seen over here. Yeah. With the but the point is, the point that this comes down to is when the shit hits your front door, when it's outside your gate. So we got saying, it's like, you got to do what's in your circle of influence to push the evil away, because it's better to get hit with the arrows in your chest than it is in your back. You know that from the fight. That's
hold on, just real quick.
Yeah. Carry on. What were you?
Yeah, no. Way to make the point about connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Because what we've got with this is,
He'll be back.
yeah. So what we've got to do is,
you know what? I should take this opportunity to. I should take this opportunity to let everyone know. Obviously, this is our first show on Rumble. So, by the way, I should have said that at the start, but we want to thank Rumble, the team at Rumble, for allowing us to and actually approaching us to switch this show onto their platform. And you're Jake. You're the first episode we've had on Rumble. Just wanted to acknowledge that because I should have done it off the bat.
Oh, and strangely enough, Jake, you're the first MMA guy that because do you remember all the boys we were supposed to have on?
Yeah.
And then we were like, it's all been because I've got some of the other boys coming on in the next few weeks as well.
Yeah.
So we can bring some of the real church to the screen. So do you know what I mean? Maajid knows everybody.
What were you saying?
Okay, so
yeah.
Jake, I was making the point about when it comes straight to your front door, like with this transgender madness that we're dealing with now, with this whole idea, like your kid's there and it's being told you can be a boy or a girl, or you can choose what you are. Now, the whole point, the point I was making about this, and it's actually over the last couple of days, was that I was explaining that what you've got is you understand utility, like someone's a bus driver, someone's working on the underground, someone's a banker. So whatever job you're doing, yeah, you've got that role that you're playing. So as long as it doesn't matter if you come home at night and it takes you a bottle of wine to get sleep. As long as you can get up, go to work, as long as you can serve as a cog in the machine, you're fine. But how do you stop a revolution? By giving everyone their own little appetite, own little psychosis. Yeah? Because psychosis means, so the word rational relates to having the tools to measure the reality around you. Yeah? So like ratio. Yeah? So like you look and you go, okay, this means that. So if I say, okay, these are a pair of glasses, yeah? That's a simple point. But if you don't know what they are, and I say to you, what is this? And you haven't got the rational tool, you might say to me, oh, it's a piece of jewelry, or it looks like something you eat your food with, yeah? The point I'm making with this are words are very important. They actually relate to your tools of measurement, yeah? Now, what happens is, if you start giving everyone everyone a word or an identity that you can switch to of any appetite, yeah, of any inkling, yeah, like that, like you've got these drag queens coming in trying to normalize that behavior to children. When how many women do you know that dress like a drag queen? Or is it the sad fuck who couldn't actually pull a woman, who in his head thinks that's what a woman is, then dresses up as a weirdo, and then wants to come in as a pervert and sit in front of your kids? I'm just asking that question. I'm not making a judgment. I'm just asking, is it some sick fuck that wants to come and I'm not making, I'm asking a question. I'm not being transphobe.
The question's quite low.
I just don't.
Yeah, you're making the point.
Me personally, I don't want to dress as a woman and have little. So when I see that, that's exactly what I said. I'm like, these are not normal people. These are perverts that want to dress them like women. It's just sick, you know. And the parents are sick. They're taking their kids there in any school. The drag thing is interesting too because that was like didn't happen, and then out of nowhere it popped up in all these like small towns, conservative towns. So it seems like that's another thing that's like orchestrated for this weird stuff. And the push for trans is weird because they were willing to say a man is a woman is a man. They're willing to believe anything.
Yeah, but this is the thing.
Sit back.
This is the thing, Jake. It's like, how do we? Because the great thing that I'm seeing here is like, how do we secure this? How do we take care of our kids? How do we make? Because the problem is, if they can come up to you and stick a syringe full of whatever in you. Now you'll appreciate this, Jake. Yeah? One of my boys, who's he's a high up, he's a CT detective, a counter-terrorism detective, but he's 45, competes jiu-jitsu still, so still competes. Got silver the other day. Goes to the doctors. They told him he's had a stroke. He doesn't know. So he goes to me, he's in the clinic, and the rest of the people in the clinic are like 70 years old. And he turns around to me and he goes, well, what do you think it is? I go, well, yeah, what do you think it is? Do you see what I mean? Now, we know what's going on with, like, you don't just, people trusted in the government, yeah? And you remember this thing here, Jake, that what we've got here is we've got this thing where, because it's what's called a consensus agreement, yeah? The whole point of being part of a democracy is there's a consensus agreement, yeah? So if it's agreed that trans is the way forward, yeah? If it's agreed that your kids can have a sex change without you being informed, and that's agreed by consensus, because of the fact that it's a democracy, that can be done without you've already agreed to it without agreeing to it. But the problem is when we look around on the ground floor, so to speak, you speak to the postman, you speak to the checkout lady, you speak to anyone in the gym, everyone's going, well, I didn't agree to this. Who signed up to this? Yeah? And this is the point now, because what we've got now is we've got like corporate interest. And as much as we can because you've got all of this, you might have the social justice warriors on one side, now you've got the radical activists on the other. Yeah? And what I mean by that is, unless we connect the dots and get some solidarity and strategize, yeah, all we're going to end up with is someone knocking on your door. Probably, I'm cool with whatever, you can do whatever you want, but I've got a rule: don't smoke in front of my child. Do you see what I mean? It's like that's my rule. It's like whatever you're doing, it's kind of like don't do it in front of my kids. Yeah. So that's the rule. It's like, and from the community, because the gym is like it's that last community. it's tight. It's a brotherhood.
There's still a lot of community in.
Yeah, but it's a brotherhood, ain't it? And yeah, you eat
I
out the
think that's
same
why
plate.
so many fighters have rejected the anti-woke ideology.
But you know why that is? Because you can't. It's so pure and it's intimate, ain't it? The brotherhood's intimate. Yeah, it's a family unit, and the problem we get with this is now that when you get something artificial being brought in, that artificial thing is what? It's us viewing human beings viewing each other as in, oh, can I consume you? Do you understand? There's no actual connection. It's all, and what this does is you can't have a revolution. This stops
Well, because you can't feel solidarity.
Yeah, without solidarity.
It is, seems like. And the thing is, a lot of this, like the kid stuff, the pushing the trans drag queens, all the gay stuff, is extremely unpopular, including by the left. My areas, I have a lot of liberal friends. Everything that sounds like right wing conservative, that's what I ask. But half my friends are liberals, and they all hate this stuff too. A lot of them are too scared to speak against it. That right wing, that's why they label these parties. I think they call you right wing, left wing. People get scared of getting. So it works genius the way it's dividing us. So they're trying to divide us through that, through religion. We're not divided in the real world. I think the gym show that perfectly. We go out there, black, Christian, Jew. We all get along as brothers. Rich, poor, and I think that's fighting over racism and religion, and it just seems propaganda. I didn't fall for it hardcore, but a little bit with all the propaganda after 9/11, anti-Muslim propaganda, which I'm sure you guys felt that a little bit being in the West, but anti-Muslim propaganda. Now that's dying out. They're switching over to they're saying like white Trump supporters, and there's just really not very many white supremacists in the U.S. left. They're just trying to act like it's a big threat in the country when it's not.
But really, that post 9/11, there's you got in America the N word's the big thing, yeah. You don't use the N word over there, but let me put it over in Europe. We got a word called "packy," yeah, and that word goes across the board for like anyone who's Muslim, who's black, Arab, whatever. And I can tell you, since 9/11, and you'll see, in fact, one of my boys who was, I don't know which promotion it was, but you and him were supposed to fight, Alex Reed. This way back, he was famous in, he was up, he won Big Brother and all that stuff. But Reedy was one of those who came out and used to help in our youth projects with Muslims and stuff, yeah? And it's an interesting story because we did one in West London where quite a well-known extremist turned up. And you got to remember, I've dealt with guys who have literally sat right next to the head of ISIS. So we're not talking about any lightweight shit, we're talking about, and this is, Now, this guy turned up, and believe it or not, it's that affected him. This extremist guy, it affected him because why is this guy turning up? He's a celebrity. He's a fake, all of it. But Reedy's there, holding pads, teaching, doing all of that. Do you see what I mean? Because the Islam, my Islam is me. Yeah, it's me. Yeah, I'm through. But what it means with this, Jake, is it's brotherhood. Islam's the thing. One thing I learned with the Islam is it's like the same brotherhood we have in the gym, it gives it a name. Yeah? And the funny thing with Islam is it's got this, and I'm not trying to pitch it, because I don't do the pitch, because I don't need to pitch it. Because what I'm saying to you here is, we got a rule, haven't we, Maajid? It's a bowl of water, you can come and take as much or as little as you want. And believe, our fight team up here, we've got big gym over here, which I hope you're going to come down to, Jake.
Are you guys in London or?
We're just outside of London, but
So I'm in London. I'm speaking to you from my studio in London, and Usman is speaking just outside of London. But that's where his gym is. The gym is my gym. It's just outside of London.
and
I'll come out there soon. I'm training fighters from there. Have you heard of like Javed and Barrett Basharat? They're from Afghanistan originally. London. Vegas training under me.
and these guys that originally from London Shoot, aren't they? They were London Shoot fighters.
I don't know what gym they were in London.
Yeah.
They moved out with me a little over a year ago. They're from Afghanistan.
Yeah, I think they were so what we had is we all started off as London Shoot, and then I split off as Peacock's Gym because we were like doing K1 as well, K1 and all, and now the team's called Prize Fighters. So my brother runs that team now, but it's basically the area that we're in is an army area, Jake. Yeah. So we grew up with we had to earn our stripes as the only coloured people in one of the most racist areas in the whole of the UK. Yeah. But the great thing that happens with that is, even though you get the racism from the outside, the little estate that we grew up on, you become family. And when you're talking about we used to think we were rich because we used to live in the local authority house where you had to put coins in the electric, but because everyone else lived in flats, do you see what I mean? And
it's like when you go really poor, if everyone else is poor around you, you don't know it. You don't realize how poor you are until you get around people with money, and you're like, oh damn, we were poor, but everyone else is in trailers.
Yeah, but that's do you know what it is, Jay? So people always used to wonder because last 15, how long has it been, Margin? Since about 2010. So the last 13 years, I've been moving around like the serious prisons in the UK. Yeah, until the government there, I just thought, okay, I can't work with these people. They're just like government's evil. Yeah. Can I say that, Margin, or not?
Say what you want.
Can I say government are a bunch of cunts or not?
Say what you want. I was going to ask, Jake, what you, because Usman's point about community in the gym, yeah, and the solidarity that it helps create. Because to his point before that, talking about the way in which everything's become about identity now and intersectional identity. Yeah. You've observed something about community, and I wanted you just to speak a bit to this, because this is one of your tweets. I found this is the first reason I actually reached out to you and thought I wanted to speak to you, because you put this out. I'm going to read it for all the viewers. It says, Christians should look at Muslims for guidance, not with disdain. They have extremely strong ties to family and their community. You give up soda for Lent. They fast the entire month for Ramadan. They have resisted the degeneracy of the West. They attend mosque weekly or daily. So first of all, I'm very appreciative that you posted that. So it's a good thing, because of course it balances out a lot of the negativity that the communities face. But I was curious, to Usman's point about the community in the gym, the way in which intersectionality makes community and solidarity impossible, because everyone is basically, instead of saying we're all together, everyone's fighting in their own corner for their own definition of identity, rather than looking for what we have in common. And if you're not looking for what we have in common and how we're different, then it's difficult to have solidarity. But you've noticed the nature of community from our tradition. So I just wanted you to speak a bit about this, and how did you come across this, and why did you put that tweet up, and what were your experiences?
Gyms are interesting because fighting is an individualistic sport, so it's about hard you put in, so it makes you tough that way. But also, you're always in different groups of people from all different. And I travel the whole world too, so I can go into any gym anywhere in the world and go take supposed to speak English. I can go to Japan, all Japanese people take me in. I've been like in street kids, bring me out to their homemade gym where people in Dominican are like, you can't go out there with, and these people are from there. I can tell I'm safe, So it's like a brotherhood, and it's like age you are, religion, how much money you make, all on the mats. We're all, we're 100% equal. It's like it's the only thing that matters. We still treat people that aren't good, get treated good, but it's only, if you're top, no one I have a ton of Muslim friends, over the years. A lot of my best friends, and just kind of watching how they behave in their culture. I know there's a lot of negative things, but don't get covered. I noticed they're mostly all really tight with their families. They have big in the West that is sadly falling. We don't have big family ties. I think that they're not. Our religion's not tied over here anymore either. There's very few. I have a lot of Christians really practice it. They don't really do anything. But during Ramadan, most of my Muslim friends, they'll be fasting. Some of them drink, some don't. But the ones that do drink, they usually don't as often, and they'll go to mosques. They don't skip it like the people. So I just noticed how much more dedicated they were longer it was. And something interesting, actually, after I sent that tweet out, it somehow must have gone on Twitter somehow, because I had a lot of people reach out to me. But I had, probably at least 50 Muslims, DM me, all extremely respectful though, asking hey, do you need any guidance, anything about the religion? And I just found that very interesting. No one pushed you at all either. I'm like, but that might be because I grew up in the West, or maybe everyone just thinks I know about Christianity, but how many people reached out wanting to share their religion with me? That's I don't know if Christians are doing that as long as growing, and Christianity just kind of seems like it's dying to me, which is sad because it's built upon Christianity. Well, no, but I don't want it to die, but it seems like it is.
Jake, this is what it comes down to. So, if you look at America, and I was making this point yesterday with Maajid as well, that we've got this thing where, remember this Christo-Judaic, America's Christo-Judaic, yeah? But Muslims have been there since the beginning of it, yeah? Literally since, and if I said to you, okay, Dave Chappelle's a Muslim, Mike Tyson's a Muslim, yeah? Now, the whole point with this is, it's I found this thing where, when I got back into, because really I got into the Muslim community at the age of 16, so we grew up outside of it. It was actually when one of my boys discovered the whole Malcolm X thing, when Spike Lee made the film, yeah? So, but when we got into the community, we started realising, okay, well, wait a minute, how come you got this thing where when people look at Muslims, there's always this idea of foreignness there. Do you see what I mean? And maybe it's because there hasn't been there. I mean, Hollywood's done a bullshit representation with the Arabs blowing themselves up.
Blowing shit up.
Yeah? But you just have to look around you. Muhammad Ali was a Muslim.
Yeah,
Malcolm X was a Muslim.
There's a good amount of black Muslims in the U.S., but there's very few. For some reason, I'm not really sure why. I think, but they definitely they got into the black people. You got Malcolm X. I think Malcolm X. That's when he went to Mecca. When he realized maybe he was wrong. Got killed right after that.
Got killed immediately. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, if you watch on Netflix Who Killed Malcolm X, you see how much of a stitch up it was. It was.
I need to watch that.
Yeah. It was. Everything we're learning these days, even with the JFK assassination, the files are becoming declassified, and you'll see that the police that were meant to guard him then, they conveniently decided not to turn up on that day. And it's what you mentioned, Jake, because he came back and there was no point in his life at which he was more dangerous than when he said, I'm now going to work with whites and blacks for peace and social harmony, and I'm now a traditional Muslim. That's when they realized this guy's a threat, and he was taken out. And I want to touch on what you said earlier about community and family and the Muslim community's ties to its tradition, its family. I mean, look, it's all over the world. I'm 45 years old. I see my mum every weekend without fail. Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, my mum comes and stays at my house. Yeah, 3 days a week, every week, to make sure my boy sees her. This is something that, how I was raised, that's not enough. 3 days a week, and they'd be like, well, what about your dad? That's actually the lesser end of it, right? So why is it so important for modern woke or liberal, whatever word you want to use? I believe woke's also a bit dated now, but the establishment, right? The globalist agenda. Why is it so important, as they did through COVID, by the way, to do certain things. I want to touch on that and come back to your comments on family and community. If you notice, they shut the gyms down, right? They shut the places of worship down, and they isolated everyone so that you couldn't see your loved ones, even if they were dying in hospital. So look at what those three, look at what they did, and then reflect on this. If you want to make the state God, if you want a tyranny, if you want that everyone has to obey your diktats, that is the state, right? And the state itself in Britain, America, wherever, is itself subservient to an entity that is global. That's why we use the word globalist. Let's say, for example, Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, he himself will be beneath another person that's responsible for telling him what to say. But they're like Biden, they're all puppets on a string. But if you want the state to be God, if you want the authorities, the powers that be, and the state and government to be God, then you have to do certain things before that can happen in reality. Think about those values that we place above even law. They are religion and God sits above law for most believers. Yeah, your family, in other words, people would break the law if somebody was attacking their mother to defend their mother. They would, they would kill and then go to court and say he was trying to kill my mum. I did what I needed to do. Now you can judge me how you want. I don't care. It was my child. It was my mum. There are certain things that we place above the importance of the state and being looked upon by the state as in favor. Those would typically would be our faith or our belief in a higher entity. It doesn't have to use the word God. It could be the source. It could be whatever, the power, the thing that we believe is responsible for all source of life, right? And usually it's family as well. So if you looked at COVID, they went for these things. They shut down places of worship. They shut down gyms. They isolated everybody. Meanwhile, certain other things could carry on. OnlyFans blew up, and everybody was able to basically continue on screen, remotely working and all of that stuff. But no, you couldn't go to a church or what have you. So this all points to the fact that actually the attack on traditional communities by the globalist agenda is deliberate. And the idea is to undermine those things that stand in their way. And it's why I believe Muslims have been at the forefront of the propaganda attacks as well, because the communities are holding on a lot faster to their family, to their faith, to their community. They've had to be attacked because they've been in the way, just like those things were attacked in COVID, before COVID, and the version of COVID that was before COVID, Jake, was 9/11, as you mentioned, right? They needed to attack and demonize the Muslims because that's one of the main communities in the West, at least, that had the potential to say, well, I'm sorry, you can tell me what you want, but I don't worship the state. And if you're going to tell me now that a boy is a girl and a girl is a boy just because they say so, well, I've got a higher authority that I pay deference to more than your bullshit. And I'm not going to listen to it, basically. And this is under attack.
And this is the thing, Jake. It's like, if you're going to look at it, we always say this about detangling the ball of wool. Because now you're on that road, it's like, you got to look at all of this from the schooling system all the way down. It's like, even this feeling that you got where you go, but I'm Christian, or I'm this, or I'm that. Like, even if you look at the conversation when we were talking about Mike Jackson, they're talking about, but he's only 3/4 white, and this is black, and my black mate. And I'm like, you have to justify nothing. It's like, the whole point that this comes down to is these little intersectionalities. Now, I just said to him, look, we're in an army area, and the guy one of our fighters, when he set up the gym, says one of our boys, when Nick Chapman bought that gym, we walked in, he goes, okay, this room here, it's your prayer room. Yep. It's your prayer room. So, it's a brother, and you'll see in that, all the way through, in any of the interviews, any of the fighters are talking about, it's a family. Anyone has any stress, and you know about that. But the point is that what it comes down to is, unless you have a wrapping around something, and my whole thing with this has been about, like, everyone's trying to get the medicine now, aren't they? It's like you got Tate, you got Andrew Tate speaking about Islam, but he's converted to it. You got Peterson talking about stuff where he's talking about symbolism and all. So Jordan Peterson talking about symbolism and all of this stuff, and all of it goes back to this thing called traditionalism. They're going, oh, we've got to get back to those old traditions. Yeah? And when you look into that ideology, it roots itself back to what? A French philosopher called René Guénon, who became what? Muslim. Yeah? Now, the reason I'm explaining this, Jake, it isn't about religion. What I'm saying to you is, it's like, do you like with martial arts? Are you, what do you reckon? Jiu-jitsu, sambo, wrestling, what would you say? You'll take your piece of what you're doing. Like Hodger.
Yeah.
So I trained Hodger Gracie stand up in the beginning when he was fighting. Yeah, so I used to coach him. So, but you know that Hodger's style is going to be different to Caesar's. So Hodger's trained with my wrestling coach, is a guy called Lubal Kumbarov, and any of the wrestling he's taken, he's incorporated it into Hodger Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, hasn't he? Do you see what I mean? That's life. But instead, we got to go Christian, Muslim. Do you see what? And if you look at the game that's played with this, I remember we were there with the LAPD, and a lady stood up and she was talking to me about policing Dearborn. So you got some place called Dearborn, Michigan, yeah? And there's a big Muslim population up there, yeah? And she was asking me about the Somalian community. And I go to her, I go, look, I'm a bit of a weirdo like that because I don't do this thing where I don't see Somalian, Nigerian, they're just my people. But then if I see you, Jake, I see my people. Because do you understand? It's like you have that song.
Yeah, we're all
it's a circle
brothers,
of,
right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is the thing. It's like, if you look at what Islam is, why is it that DC calls Khabib his brother? Is DC's relationship less than the relationship Khabib's got with Islam?
It's almost like religion in the gym. You become so close. It's like the same community. You feel like you become brothers. So I have much more in common with a Muslim that trains than a Muslim that trains. So they're like my brothers.
But this is what I'm saying to you, Jay. What you have with this is the philosophy is what's called a relational philosophy. The concept of religion is 17th century, when in the West, in Germany, you had this what's called the Lutheran Reformation, where Martin Luther wanted to get away from the authority of the Pope and came up with a structure where you could go to a book and the book would give you your banking system with Zeus. Yeah. But the concept of Allah, yeah. If I said to you, Jake, and look, your heart's already beating right now, and you might hear it like boom, boom, boom. But it's just going Allah, Allah. That's how Islam's that Eastern philosophy. The same about when you look at Jake is there, and he's like, your center is the same center. It's the source, yeah. And then it says to you, in order to know the source, go out and be compassionate. And that's it. It's like but yes, why do those rules come? So you don't go about abusing people. Yeah, they got Sharia law. All Sharia law means is the pathway to the water hole, and it's different. Like, if people came up to us, Jake, our Sharia law, like, as people that train, they've got bloody hell, you lot are worse than the Taliban. Yeah, Maajid, what did the extremists say about me? What did that? You got an extremist group over here, and you got an. What did they say to the researcher about me?
It helps a bit that the extremists are a bit scared of us. So,
the extremists, the guys who set up, they said that we're the ones that are violent. They start the same way that you social justice warriors. They're turning around to the police and going, "Oh, you've got him because he's violent." I haven't even. Do you know what I mean? The only time you guys have been sent to hospitals in the gym.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just interesting. The fact, the religion thing, how it seems to be just being attacked in the West. The religion, breaking apart. And then back earlier saying family, something interesting during the same COVID lockdowns matter. If you look at Black Lives Matter, their whole message is to break apart against the family unit. A lot of people don't even realize that. So it's like it's an organization to break people apart. Get them away, get them worshiping their government. Not God, not their family. So it's interesting times in the West.
Well, if you look at the Cultural Revolution in China, Jake, one of the Mao's period, right? One of the things that, again, because it's all been done before, nothing is new. We think everything is new because we're born recently. Nothing's new. History cycles, everything's been done before. And what they did with the Cultural Revolution was exactly that. They needed to turn child against parent. They needed to turn student against teacher. Because if you cut that umbilical cord of tradition, then because nothing is new, the lessons have already been learned. And they've been passed on to us generation to generation. You've got to cut that so that we don't know that things new and that the lessons have already been learned. And then we're easy to manipulate. But who's going to manipulate us? We've got no parents to listen to, no teachers to respect, no elders and traditions to honor. Then, of course, the state steps in. And the state, as we know, has been captured by corporate interests. So when the state's manipulating us, it's doing so on behalf of corporate interests. So in other words, we are being farmed. We're being farmed like Wagyu beef, and we don't realize it. So like Wagyu meat that we eat, Wagyu steak, they massage those cows, right? And they play classical music to them. That's why the meat's so soft, because the cow thinks he's happy, right? And he's happy because he's listening to music, he's being massaged. Then he gets slaughtered, and they present that beef on the plate, and it's really soft and tender. So the more you pamper that cow, the tastier its beef is, right? So as long as we think we've got the consumer goods around us, as a result, we are in this kind of mind frame where we don't realize we're being deceived because we think we have everything that we need because of corporatism. So when you divorce tradition from that, it's easy to manipulate us. And then what they do is they sell us everything, but ultimately, really, the product is us. We're the thing that's being exploited. We're the thing that's being sold. Our data, our private information, it's all the Twitter files, right? So it's not just the US FBI's security services all over the world. Today I posted about the Israeli security services doing the same thing with Google and Facebook and Amazon, and Twitter was doing FBI was doing Twitter. So where the actual product is being exploited, and there are strong traditions that warn us against all of this, but of course that's been family and tradition has been divorced from us, so we are completely blind, and we don't know. But the answers are already there because these are. Look, none of us are stupid people, right? You don't get to compete at your level, Jake, if you can't think strategically. And anyone that hasn't trained exactly. Anyone that hasn't trained martial arts won't understand this. It's not a stupid man's game, right?
No, and very, very complex sport.
And if we all three of us decided right now here to try and answer all of life's problems, we're not going to be able to, right? But you've got thousands of years of tradition.
we're standing at the Thermopylae, yeah, and we've got a whole load of Persians coming, yeah, and both of us can have butterflies, but you know the guy next to you isn't going to run, yeah, and that's why like that. You know, even when a fight's coming up, that thing where where you sit there and you go, oh, that guy, if he could punch me in the head and kill me, he would. And if you think about that too much, yeah, you're like up at night and you go, oh, why am I even thinking stupid, so I'm crazy. Yeah, but you have to have that solid aspect in your practice, yeah, what you're doing is right. Now the point is, what it comes down to is, this is like a call for us right now, Jake, yeah? So I always say this, like, you got to get that collective where you got everyone that's concerned about what's going on, and they're doing that little bit to push the evil away. Because I'm telling you, it's like, right now what we got is, you got a lot of people talking, but the problem you got, remember, me and Maajid have been problem solving this. I've been over there at Rikers Island with federal and bureau prison people explaining to them about what's going on in prisons and how you spot this and how you don't do that, yeah? So we've been problem solving for the last decade. That's been our job at the highest level. And you see this shit rolling in, and you think to yourself, well, actually, if your kids at school right now, they're not going to tell you if they've got, what is it, LGBT healthcare workers coming in with butt plugs and dildos for your kids to play with.
Yeah, the shit that goes on, in particular in the US, what's going on there? Have you seen some of that?
It's pure insanity. You know, I have a daughter, you know, well, she's in college now, but it gets gotten a lot worse. You just push nonsense. And saw some videos of some of the regular parents, the Christians, the Muslims coming together to protest, helping to wake up some of the conservative Americans that, oh, maybe these people have similar values, conservative, not liberal. I think a lot of Muslims traditionally in the U.S. voted Democrat, maybe Party Bush, which he was terrible, you know, invaded multiple Muslim countries. So I think that was a good reason, which I would never vote for either. But I think now the values are starting to shift. I think both the right more in line with the right. It's an interesting time. To the point when you're saying, you know, if you're standing going to battle, you need your brothers to roll with. Fortunate where I have, you know, one of the top most brotherly teams in the sport, MMA. You know, probably not be watching this, but I could see it. The brothers, Gilbert Melendez. I knew for certain that we got in a fight, been in a couple famous brawls, but some ones that weren't televised as well. You know, I could know 50 guys coming out of us. I would know that we would at least stand back to back, and we would try to get beat up. We're all going to get beat up together. But there's a good chance we stand back to back, keep fighting. The guys are going to run off. But regardless, I knew, you know, this was just me and Nick, you know, traveling across the world, going to run. He's gonna get beat down with me. I think it's important to have brothers nowadays. They have friends that, you know, you get in a fight and they run off, but then they'll be like, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to get beat up with me.
What we got now is we got the Empire to fight. So you got the whole fucking Empire on one side. And this is why, like, I always make these points to say, look, it can't be, we got to move on from here to like the next level. Connect what you're doing with what's going on up there. And not from some not from some nonsense perspective, because my thing with this is like, I need to vet you to know, okay, I know Jake, because I know the way, yeah, it's all one play, yeah, we know how we think, do you see what I mean? Now, or the expectation of how we think, that no one's going to run. But the thing with this is, it's like, it's going to need like local activism, because like me and Maajid have been talking about the fact that there's what we're doing here, but it's out on the streets as well. Do you see what I mean? Getting out there
But when COVID hit, it became so crazy to me. I'm like, all right, I don't know what I can do, but at least by speaking my mind and making it public, it might give others, to realize other people feel that way. And, both hate, you get some people hate you, but it's never whatever comes up to me and says anything. The same people that probably talk about me on Twitter see me come take a picture. I think people online calling you a Nazi or something, they hate you, and you realize it's not real hate your life, they're going to come talk to you. It's just, it's a way to divide people, which, liberal versus conservative, that's not really a divide either. A lot of people think, I get blamed, but I'm not. I have tons of liberal friends, and I think the majority of liberals are that. It's how you get worked up and that they're manipulating. And it's how do you wake them up? You can't wake them up by hating right away. You can realize they're being lied to and conned.
Yeah. Do you feel, Jake, that we're in this year, this year maybe next, that things from the COVID period, because you've been very vocal about COVID, and let me show you and everyone else, like one of the things you've said. This is one of your tweets. The news already told you the vaccine was safe and effective, you vile right-wing conspiracy theorists. And that's obviously you being sarcastic, because then you published all the headlines that criticize so-called right-wingers for linking the Damar Hamlin medical collapse on the field to the fact that he was jabbed. Let me start by this. Let me ask you, have you ever in your life seen so many athletes collapse?
I have not, I would certainty it's something I haven't noticed before, but I'm pretty sure it's way beyond normal. And no one's studying and doing detailed analysis of like how many athletes have died to like you think if they could prove this is always normal, they would be pushing it in the headline data how many athletes used to drop. And it definitely seems unusual. And also, who's been dropping typically it was way less common for females, but in seeing that, it seems 100% doesn't seem normal. And at least we should be studying and asking questions, Am I willing to show my biases looking at it? Of course, it's a possibility, but my gut tells me something is off. Probably, they know for a fact that it causes swelling of the heart, and swelling of the heart obviously is not a good thing. The extent of it, and hopefully it's something that will pass. But because I'm having many friends that are vaccinated.
Yeah. Do you think so? Do you think this year there's going to be a bit more of an awakening around this? Because Biden just, despite this Damar Hamlin thing, but Biden just tweeted, and I went for him as a result, but he just told, what did he say? In fact, let me see if I can find it. But he said, I think everyone 6 months older should get the vaccine.
Bloody hell.
I'm going to see, here we are. This is yesterday, right? President Biden. Everyone 6 months and up should get their updated COVID vaccine. And I especially urge folks 50 and older to get their updated shot like I did. I'm clearly, first of all, I don't think he got it, right? But he's telling 6-month-olds to take the COVID vaccine. That's just unbelievable.
Because we know for a fact that it's not good for children. Once you get older, or not, I think it's not good for anyone, but you can make an argument, once you're very, very clear on the science that it's extremely unhealthy for kids, teens, young adults, for certain. It's not even, if you go through data, it's not even questionable. The fact that they're like evil these people are, and I guess it's just for pharmaceutical profits, because they don't see why they want to. Man, it's terrible they're doing this. And I think people are starting to realize it about the vaccine. I've seen tons of people attacking me, bashing me. Now they're just silent. It's been a way for a while. The hardcore vaccine advocates have gotten less and less. Because they used to pile on me if I would say something. You see a few of them, but now they get made fun of. People are still strongly pushing the vaccine. So if you look at how many people are boosted, no one's getting the boosters anymore. That tells you right there. According to the experts, they're telling you to go get your 5th or 6th booster, but no one's doing it. So that means everyone's anti-vaxxer now. Not everyone, but there's, I think maybe 10-15% of people still getting the boosters.
Yeah. Well, let's hope this year changes things. Now, I noticed I'll probably leave you on this question, Jake, and then let you noticed that Mike Jackson has said that he's something about boxing. He wants to box you. He wants his revenge. What's going on there?
Sure, I'll box him in the gym. I'm not going to make him come out. The guy, I don't think he's ever going to show. Because after I smacked him around, he wanted with me after he talked crap. The funny thing is, he fights the same weight as me. He's still currently fighting with him. He wanted to fight me. He just ran his mouth. That's why I went over and slapped him, threw him on the ground. I don't waste my time with him anymore. To realize how pathetic he is. Or you can keep giving him attention. Hopefully he'll disappear and we'll never see him again.
Yeah.
And hopefully he'll snap out of his crazy. If you want to think of you as like saying black and proud, even though he's a border, but he's saying black proud, he has big black power, he's like white people are bad. These people, which is strange considering, that's 3/4 of what you are. But there's some strange people.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your time. Usman, do you want to round off with anything with Jake? Because we're going to have David Fleming.
What I was going to say, Jake, is it's important to get that. You got to get that solidarity. Do you see what I mean? You got to get it where there's a strategy and a movement that's working. You see, because right now it's I use the analogy of your husband that beats up his wife. Yeah, and you go up to the wife and you go, "How many kickings are you going to take before you leave?" And if you look at this shit, it's like we've had COVID, we've had the COVID thing, we've got this transgender madness going on. You've got all of these things that are happening, yeah. But then when you actually start thinking, you actually start looking at it, and you start breaking it down, you start realizing, oh wait a minute, this stuff's been going on for a long time. Yeah? Now even this term woke, I was speaking to Maajid about it, how when we were working, when I was working back in the prisons, there was a project that the British government ran called a website called This Is Woke. Yeah? This is before the word woke really got out there, yeah? And the meaning of the term was flipped into what it is now. Yeah. And that was what was called a PSYOPs project. Yeah. This is a conspiracy theory. You got to remember, we worked in this, not that we worked in the PSYOPs, but we saw this shit. Yeah. And the point is that and you got to remember, you're speaking to a guy who was keynote speaker at West Point, and the other guy that's on here was bloody advised. How many prime ministers and presidents have you advised Maajid that you sat down with?
Cameron, Blair, Brown, Bush. That's four. Yeah, four. The last four before the whole thing was all went mad.
Oh, so you get the Obama?
No, I didn't speak to Obama. I was criticizing him on CNN because he wouldn't. He was. I didn't like the way he was bombing the Middle East bits.
You got pretty fast.
He got pretty fast. He campaigned on wanting to shut Guantanamo Bay down and then drop more drones than bombs than Bush ever did. I was really upset. By the time Obama came around, I was they didn't want me to speak to anymore because I kept speaking my mind.
No, but this is
You got to speak to both, John.
Yeah.
Because what it comes down to this, Jake, is it's like the shit we've seen with this. We were actually one of our boys yesterday who did a decade in one of the UK's prisons, and he was like, so yeah, you talked about the groups that you have, yeah. He was in one of the main prisons, and he was the head of all the Muslims there. But while he was in the prison, he was all about the right way, not the wrong way. You understand? So he wasn't, and he was talking to us about explaining about how he saw all of these generations, the changing of the thinking, and how we went more into this gangsterism. Do you see what I mean? So he saw that downgrade happen in thinking with the community, but then what you've also got is the system on the other side, this He goes, look, the way you presented about Islam is really nice. I really liked it. He goes, but in my church, they told me that you guys are waiting for the Antichrist. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, the level of like when you look, because remember, I grew up in white, I always use this thing where I grew up in a white community. So the only time you remember that you're coloured is when you're like, and except when people are swearing at you and you're getting, because there's a certain point where you're a little kid getting beaten up, and then you know how it is, Jay, you figure out that getting punched doesn't hurt that much. You understand what I mean? And then you start hitting, and you figure out if you hit someone back, they get scared, yeah? But
better to fight them and get hurt a little bit physically to hurt your ego.
Better to stick up for yourself and figure out that actually they're all mostly bullies until you know what happens. And then you go into the gym and you figure out reality. Because first time I 15 went in and thought I was a bit tough because I've been doing karate and kickboxing, and the Thai boxing coach grabbed my head. First place I grabbed my head, beat me in there, broke my nose, and I thought, okay.
My first time sparring a real pro was Chuck Liddell.
Oh my god!
Yeah. But that hard, I mean, we still beat the hell out of me. I was a cocky young kid wrestler. Can't put tattoos, and I'm just like, people don't know he's one of the best fighters of all time. Yeah, but he looked, I thought I was ridiculous. Now it's look, but he has like these, he had a bit of these tattoos. So I went to spar him, and he just beat the crap out of me. Well, I was doing body over shot, which he sparred, that.
Oh, no, I was saying to Marvin, I'd rather get hit 10 times in the head than the liver shots, liver or solar plex for me is just. But I met Chuck at, do you remember, were you here for UFC 38? Brittle World Oval, would you come over for that, Jacob? That's what.
I think that was Chuck on that one.
No, he wasn't on there, he was at the show. So, and that was the show where there was the after party at China White's and Lee Murray and Tito got into it.
Oh, I don't think I was there. I remember that though. When I got in that fight, I was not that one though.
Yeah, we went into the hotel lobby, and so what happened is, this was after all the shit kicked off. When the shit kicked off, I came out, and I figured out very quickly you don't want to get mixed up in this. When I looked, I was like, okay, these are pro fighters getting into it. Do you see what I mean? So, and then I grabbed hold of Alex, and he was like totally pissed out. He was totally drunk. I had to grab him. But we went to the hotel lobby, and first time I met Chuck was the lift opened up. Chuck walks out, and then there's he's a bit of a ladies' man, isn't he, as well, Chuck? And so, and then some woman
girls in him. He should write a book. It's like I've known like famous actors, this and that, and turn it to a whole other level. It's like if I hadn't seen it, I wouldn't believe it.
It's funny, Jake, because
you look at that guy, he comes to model girlfriends, like lots of them.
He comes out the lift and there's a woman behind him straightening herself out. And he comes down and he's sitting there and he's sitting there and he explains the story. He goes, yeah, a guy came up to me. So there was, he was explaining the story about how it all kicked off. And the guy's come up to him and goes, you probably heard this story. He goes, and I said to him, wait. He goes, I took my watch off and I knocked the motherfucker out. You know what I mean? I was like, and me and Gaz Morrison were just sitting there. There's Chuck there and there's Matt Hughes and all of these boys. Do you know what I mean? Because you remember we were 20 something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was the early times of the sport still. Yeah, I was not already. He's me in prison in Morocco for like one of the largest bank robberies.
Yeah.
Hey, great talking to you guys.
You're welcome back anytime. As you can see, it's an unscripted stream of consciousness, and we're on air every Tuesday. But to our audience, don't go away. We're not finishing. We've got another guest, but we're just going to say
Great talking to you guys.
Yeah, we're going to say thank you to Jake. Thanks, Jake. Yeah. We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Take care.
Before we bring on our next guest, I just want to let everyone know who the guest is and a bit about why we've got another guest on as well. So that was obviously Jake Shields. This is our first show for Agreed on Rumble. We hope all of you on Rumble are enjoying the show and enjoyed that chat with Jake Shields. We are aware, as usual, of some interference in our sound in the stream. Rumble's people are working on it from their end. We hope that this next conversation will be slightly better on the sound, only because Jake, poor guy, was using his phone, so that might have something to do with it, but we're still very happy with the way that conversation went. And next up is David Fleming, who's joining us from the UK. And the reason we want to speak to David is to bring an angle that we heard speak to Jake about the need to get out there on the ground, not just online, not just on Twitter, not just through streams, but to get out there on the ground and actually do some work in communities so that we can actually start trying to push back against some of this rising technocracy. And so why we thought we want to speak to David again, before we moved to Rumble, David's been on the show once before, and if you remember, those of you who have followed us over from our previous platforms to Rumble, and thank you if you have, if you remember, David Fleming is the guy that sets up a campaign group called Not Our Future. And their purpose is to work within communities to help galvanize communities so that the communities can take power back in their own hands and start pushing back on some of the madness that is globalist technocracy and the way it's being introduced. So let's give you an example. For example, if you watch us regularly, you'll be aware that we've been very critical of this idea of central bank digital currencies or CBDCs. If they get away with cancelling our cash, and if the only thing we can then use is electronic payments, then of course, as happened in Canada with truckers and elsewhere, the minute that we say or do something that upsets the authorities, if we're too radical, if we resist too much, they can switch off our ability to use money. And keep in mind, this is all on the premise that they can cancel cash. If they can switch off your electronic ability to use money and there's no cash, you starve. That's how you become a digital slave in technocracy. Because, of course, if everything's done online, that can all be switched off on the back end. So as an example of some of the work that Our Future is looking to do, that's David Fleming's organisation, Our Future, is if a business in a local community suddenly decides that they're going to go card payment only. Say you go in to buy a loaf of bread and you hand them a banknote and they say, no, we don't take cash, we only take electronic payments. Well, organisations such as Not Our Future would like to get involved in your community to then, through mailing lists, let everyone in that community know that actually this business, this baker A, isn't taking cash, but on the same street as baker B that still does take cash. And encouraging all their supporters to go and instead buy their bread from baker B, who still takes cash, but also takes card, so that you can pay with both. But the point being, they're keeping cash alive so that we don't only end up with this digital system that the central banks control and can turn off and program at will. So that's a bit of an idea as to what Our Future seeks to do. But this, the reason we're speaking to David this time is because they were actually in the communities recently. They were in Oxford. And to tell you a bit about why they were in Oxford and what they were doing in Oxford, I'm going to bring David on. So let's meet him, David Fleming. Welcome, David. Welcome back.
How are you doing, David? You good?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Good to see you again. And you obviously heard the introduction that I gave. If there's anything wrong I said, please feel free to correct me. But tell us why Not Our Future was recently in the English city of Oxford.
Yeah, well, one of the main things Not Our Future wants to do is to get out into the public. So the plan was basically,
Before we go into the plan, David, just what's the danger of this so-called 15-minute city? Why do you find that dangerous?
well, it's if you look at the United Nations Agenda 2030, they're basically, and the subsequent reports from that tanks have made, they basically want to push smart cities, and they want sort of to encourage people to move to smart cities and encourage urbanization because they say that it is the most sustainable, way to use resources. If everyone's in the same place, all crammed up together. So basically, that's the ultimate aim. Now, if you look at how things have gone since then, in 2019, a company called Arup, working with the University of Leeds, published a document called C40 Cities. And that basically outlined smart cities and what they want to happen. And if you look at it, basically, they say what they would like to happen. I don't have the figures in front of me, but basically, they have two goals, like a realistic goal and an ideal goal. And so, as an example, their realistic goal for meat consumption in cities is, I forget what it is now, it's for something ridiculous, like 6 kilos a year or something, 16 kilos a year, which is like a quarter pounder every 3 weeks or something. Work out this maths yourself. It's ridiculous. But their ideal goal is zero meat, and zero car ownership, and clothing, new items of clothing. I remember this one, 8 items, the realistic target is 8 new items of clothes a year per person. And their, the ideal one is 3 new items of clothing per person per year. I mean, this is like crazy level. And this is a plan, this is what they want to do. And so then a year after that, in 2020, Europe started publicizing, so that was C40 cities. In 2020, Europe started publishing posts on their website about 15-minute cities. So this is like the next step of how are they going to do this, the C40 cities, break it up into little groups of 15-minute cities. This was 2020, the year of the Great Reset, and talking about climate lockdowns for the first time and build back better, all that stuff. And then in 2021, Paris announced there was going to be a 15-minute city, or 20 minutes. They interchanged 20 and 15 here and there. And so that was that. So it's ramping up. And now Oxford have announced they're going to start doing this trial. But obviously it's going to be easy. They don't think of it as a trial. They're just going to do it. But you can see the direction of travel. I mean, they argue, it's only to reduce traffic, but basically it confines people in their cars to these zones around in the city, 6 zones. You're not allowed to travel between them directly. You have to go out onto the ring road and go around. So to deliver, a package or pick up your grandkids or something like that, instead of a 10-minute quick drive across, town, you have to go out on the ring road, and it could be like an hour and a half. So goodbye normal life. It's going to be completely different.
And I understood then, David, that they are proposing to break cities up into zones and confine neighborhoods into those zones and make movement between the zones in one city difficult and limited up to only a certain number of times.
Yeah, so I mean, there's no physical barriers. You can drive anywhere you want, but if you do, you'll get fined. So at the moment, the plan is to give people 100 passes a year. So that's like 100 out of 365 days. If it involves going to work every day, so that if you're caring for, they say there's exemptions in place for various things like care, but I mean, at what level of care, just checking into your parents to see if they're okay, is that care, is that like just stopping by? So the idea is you have to appeal to authority for these permits, which you can call them credits. So you have to appeal to authority for credits. They judge whether you deserve it or not. So instantly you can say you're on the back foot. Obviously, every car journey through those cameras is going to be logged and recorded and checked. So basically, from the word go, it's total, surveillance, appealing to authority, getting permission for credits, and just totally. And apart from getting your credits, it's basically going to massively affect daily life. There's going to be no sort of serendipity, or it's going to be like no spontaneity. Popping down to the
if you go